From some of the scariest moments, to the most high-intensity scenes, to even more incredible characters, Haunted Mansion had it all. But now, there's a remake coming out soon. Here's all you need to know about it. Starting with, of course, what will the remake even be about? It's the biggest question that longtime fans of the original film have had ever since the film was announced. It turns out that this time, the story isn't going to be the same, with many changes to not just the story itself, but a lot more. But before I get into that, let's look at the plot of the original film.
You're telling me all I have to do is find this key, then I'm gonna walk out here with my wife and kids like nothing ever happened?
The key is the answer to all.
Well, great, I'm in. Let's get this key.
There's only one problem. How do we get out of here?
Yeah, how do we get out of here?
The original film came out way back in 2003. Its story was about two real estate agents just doing their jobs when they get trapped in the mansion, with no way out, of course. Their children are in the mix, and they all have to find a way to escape that mansion. But this time, they're changing things around, and if I'm honest, it's similar to The Conjuring, or at least somewhat looks that way with the limited details that are out.
Hey, how do I know what to look for? This thing is full of junk.
Find the thing that must be read, lest your heart be filled with dread.
There's nothing in here red.
The story will be about a mother and her son, who's just 9 years old. Of course, they move into a new mansion based in New Orleans, once again following the age-old trope of a family looking for a new beginning. As such tropes go, the house is much more sinister than they could have imagined, and things quickly turn dark. Thankfully, they'll get some help, as they don't know how to deal with paranormal beings. So you've also got a paranormal tour guide, a priest, and a historian helping them along the way. But with all that said, who will be starring in the new film? With all of them working together, the plot seems like it's going to be incredible.
Look at what he brought you. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, you know you have a wonderful husband that thinks about you like that on your anniversary. You're so fortunate.
It's beautiful.
You know, it's actually Teddy's fault that I'm late.
You can count on Disney not to disappoint you regarding remakes, especially ones about their rides. So as you'd expect, they've got a banger cast for it as well, with some of the most prominent names in the industry. Though there could be some additions or changes here and there that they haven't talked about publicly, but that could be said about any film out there.
Tears of joy.
Enough about that for now. This time, the film has some incredible names, such as Owen Wilson and Lakeith Stanfield. Not just that, but you've also got Rosario Dawson playing the mother, Danny DeVito, and even Tiffany Haddish. But that's not all. Jamie Lee Curtis will play Madame Leota, while Jared Leto will play the Hatbox Ghost. They're even bringing in some of the most iconic figures from the ride. And finally, you've also got Winona Ryder, Hassan Minhaj, and Dan Levy in the mix. The three were announced as part of the film in September of 2022. That too during the D23 Expo that Disney held. With an incredible cast behind the film, there's no way it could go wrong. Though there's another huge question that audiences have had. Who will be directing the film? This could make or break the entire film and has been worrying people. At least, it has been worrying fans of the original movie, but fear not, dear viewer. It will be directed by the same person known for directing Dear White People, the very same film from 2014 turned into an entire show on Netflix. Yes, you're right, it's none other than Justin Simien. While this might not be the biggest news to some of you, let me tell you why it's such a big deal. The director used to work at Disneyland. Not just that, but while working there, he used to go on the ride every chance he got, whether it was while he was on break or whatever. So you know he loves the film's universe and will do his best to bring it to life. Personal connections like this always make a film a million times better. Not just that, but he's made sure to put in as many Easter eggs to the original ride as possible in the film. You can tell he's a real nerd about it, and I'm all for it. He even talked about the script itself, saying it had the same soul as the ride. So that's just more good news for fans about something good with the same sentiment being made. But if the film is actually good or not is still a a question that can only be answered at its release. On the other hand, is there a trailer for it yet? Why, yes, there is. In fact, it came out relatively recently, just on the 2nd of March 2023. After a really long time of waiting, Disney finally let audiences have a peek at the film with a trailer, and it was worth the wait. With a bunch of callbacks to the original ride, even putting in the Constance Hatchaway or the Black Widow bride, and even the stretching room. But what was really surprising about the trailer is that instead of usually going for a really kid-friendly approach, as they do with most of their films, and let's be honest, it comes off as cringy and over-the-top goofy most of the time, this time it just looks like it's going to be really cool. And even the trailer looked incredible. While most of its attempts at making more films based on its rides, ever since the first Pirates of the Caribbean film hasn't been a big success, at least not as big as what they had initially hoped for, this time seems to be really different from the rest. It also seems like Disney will keep trying to get it right until it actually does, even if it takes a million tries. The film is going to be on the big screen near you on the 28th of July 2023, unless of course it's hit by a delay, as is the case with a lot of films these days. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Though, how have fans reacted to news of the remake? Fans are actually really excited about this one. The previous film didn't take itself too seriously and went along with the whole family trope. So this time, fans are super excited that they're actually going to dive into the ride's lore and make something much better. Not just that, but people think that if it's actually good, it could end up being an incredible introduction to horror for kids. On the other hand, it has sparked the age-old debate around the infinite remakes that have been coming around recently, calling almost all of them cash grabs based on old work without actually bringing anything new to the table. But this remake is definitely not one of them. Everything's different, and they're going in a completely different direction. And finally, did the first film do well enough to even justify a remake? While it may not have ended up being an all-time classic, it certainly is pretty high on most people's lists, even making a lot of childhoods, including mine. The film had a budget of 90 million USD at the time and ended up exceeding that in profit by a lot, making over 180 million at the box office. So it's safe to say that it's earned its place as at least one of Disney's most iconic films, and it for sure deserves a remake, and a remake that actually dives into the incredible ride's lore. But money isn't the only thing that matters about it. It wasn't done justice back then, even though it has a lot of potential, so it's much more like a redemption arc this time. That's been a look into everything you need about the Haunted Mansion remake.